order. We don't have a quorum yet. It doesn't matter because we're not in session, so this meeting is informational. Actually, I think the meeting is critical and essential. The topic is extremely important and desperate straits that so many of our providers are finding themselves in makes this hearing one of the more important things we'll be doing. So for the public and for members, you should have gotten a copy of an amendment of a bill. It's a redone version of what Senate File 133 was that left the floor, by the way, unanimously. And thank you for that to all parties who had a hand in that. And then there's an amendment to that, and I don't know that we need to go through the amendment specifically. Maybe we do, but I'm going to ask Mr. Monahan to go through the basic changes that we've made. I think there's some real improvements on accountability and making sure that nobody gets 125% of the money. And maybe I'll just offer a little summary. And then we have a good number of testifiers. And my thinking there is we'll go through the testifiers and then we'll have our discussion. So, so basically the bill is as it was, with a couple tweaks, and Mr. Monahan will point out the ones I've forgotten. But in particular, we were concerned that a company might actually get more than 100% of their money. We were basing it on 50% of what they received in January of 2020, that this would be the grant. And in the beginning, they would get 25% of that going out the door July 1st in an effort to give all these groups money to pay the light bill and whatever else they have to do in their desperate times. And it occurred to us that actually a company could actually get more than 100% of what they were doing if they had some kind of business going on. And this bill here is an effort to it's a rescue operation. It's that Red Adair guy putting out the oil fire in Texas, coming in just trying to save the day. And so we decided that the most the company could get would be 75% of what they had in January, and the most the state would contribute based on this bill would be 50%. And so the effort is to cover people's hard costs. And if they had some other, money is coming and so on, then that's totally fine. But we're making sure that they get rescued. And if we've messed that up somehow, if it doesn't do what we thought, then let us know that. So, but anyway, so today is informational, and then also there was a concern that the Hoffman amendment that got added was a nice amendment, but it took us out of COVID money, and so we had to change that, had to come out. And so instead we have a reference saying that as people take this money and other monies to pay attention to the laws we just passed in House File 11 with the Vision for Independence and the changes we hope to see going forward with those. And I think that's a really, really good reform. And just a thought about that. If you didn't notice it, you might want to read it because it's a big, big deal. I think when we left the treatment centers, the asylums for the insane, and moved into waivers, and got rid of the big institutions, that was a big, big change and a big time. I think this is the next big thing. I think this is as huge as it can be, where the default setting is. People will be independent and pushing them that way, still having the safety net, and most providers will still be very necessary and all of that. But I think this is going to be a big, big change, and I'm actually pretty excited about it. So anyway, that's that. Mr. Monahan, do you want to fill in the blanks, and however you suggest we go through it so people can understand what's going on? So thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, members, I think you covered the big change. I will note that on page 2, line 25, we added some language for the sake of discussion at this point that is nearly identical to language that appeared in what became first special session chapter 1, the small business grants. And part of those grants, there were immediate small business grants, and language was included in that law now that exempted those grants from many of the grant management procedures so that the money could get out the door quickly. At least that was the intent. So with respect to that first 25% payment, July 1, we included similar language here. Though the normal grant management processes would apply to the subsequent grants, the bigger 50% grants. We included a process to allow the providers to upfront account for the fact that they may be receiving grants from other sources and to discount or offset these grants with that other money that they're getting so that they don't have to repay any money in the future. They could just reduce their request upfront. You mentioned the mechanism we put in place to make sure that nobody was getting 125% or more of what they got in January. And we did it in a way to try to create an incentive for folks to continue to provide services, allowing them to retain, in addition to their grant, a certain proportion of their revenue from the services they were providing. And it sort of phases out over time so that the grant the amount of the grant goes down as the revenue for the services they're actually providing goes up. But it's not one for one. There's also some language in the amendment from DHS, or not from DHS, I should say, incorporating suggestions from DHS, allowing them to retain some money to administer the grants, some clarifying changes regarding managed care, to make sure that managed care revenue is included in this whole process. A requirement to offset the grant with any rate increase that a managed care organization might pass through if that were to occur. You mentioned the new language corresponding or attempting to address the Hoffman Amendment that appears at page 4, beginning on line 25. And then the amendment also has some language DHS requested regarding future audits and recoveries of potential overpayments as a result of these grants. I think that's a summary of the changes.
And thank you. And I want everybody to know that we've worked with DHS all along the way with this, and we've accepted virtually all their technical assistance. And I don't see if they're testifying specifically, but they're going to be available for questions. And it's my understanding, I'll let them speak for themselves, but it's my understanding that they see this as being workable. It's not their idea, so I guess that means they can't say that they support it. And I actually don't know why they can't support good ideas in the legislature. We're kind of a partnership, it seems. Anyway, so we'll talk about that. And Mr. Monahan, just want to clarify something. And now as you describe things, I realize maybe I just want to make sure it's clear. So the base month is January of 2020. And I presume there's data for that. They gave us that date, I guess. And so if a person gets $1 from this, the most their revenue can be is 75% of what it was in January of 2020. And if they're lucky enough to be at 74%, we're going to make them whole to 75%. If they're at 76% of their revenues, then they're not eligible for this program. Did I say that right?
The last bit is correct.
Okay.
the amount of the grant phases down as their revenue goes up. So if a provider is receiving 76% of the revenue they had received in January, the amount of the grant will start to become negative, which means they wouldn't get anything.
Right. Perfect. And I want people to understand this is a way to keep people open. These are retention payments. I'm not sure if they're called grants or payments. Now we've had both terms. But it's a way to keep the system open. And it's if you look at the list of people who can qualify, it's a long list. And it would be interesting, maybe DHS, if while you're listening, if you could have some idea about how many lives are covered under the umbrella of what of the provider list that we have. And I have to think it's a lot. I'm thinking it's 50,000, and I don't know how you'd ever get the list of providers, but it'd be helpful to know. That's my first question. You can kind of ruminate on when we get to the questions. So you have some time to figure that out. So before we move to testifiers, any questions from members about the structure of the bill and the changes and what's going on? This is a good time for that. So just speak up if you have a question. And I don't see anybody speaking up. So anyway, so let's move into testifiers. And we've got, I think, 10. And so what I'm hoping to get from you all is, what do you think of the bill? And if it doesn't pass, what's going to happen to you? And that's, so if we can kind of, and if there's something else we need to talk about, we can, but that'll help us to focus. As you well know, and kudos to Senator Isaacson, I don't know if he's on, and Senator Curran and Kiffmeyer in particular, who have worked, and Senator Hoffman. Oh, didn't want to forget you, John. Who have done really a lot of behind the scenes work to get this both to get squared away and then actually get through suspending the rules to run into no action whatsoever on the part of the House. And I do not understand that. I just do not understand that. And anyway, so, but I wanted to single out those individuals and then the rest, of course. I mean, the whole committee has been supportive of this. And Senator Utke with his experience, and I'm gonna quit naming names because I'll forget somebody like I did before. Anyway, so let's move into testimony, and I'm glad you're here. So, take a couple minutes, and then anyway, so Ms. Geldert, welcome to the committee.
Let's see if I. All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. I want to make sure I worked it right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Brenda Geldert. I'm the Executive Director of Options Incorporated, located in Big Lake. We are a day service provider for the greater Sherburne County area. Thank you, Chair Abler, for having this hearing on the importance of serving our disabled community in the midst of this pandemic and protecting, and the work you guys are all doing to protect us from closure so we can continue to serve Minnesotans in a post-COVID world. I think we're all hoping that will happen soon. So we are a licensed state trained rehabilitation program serving over 250 adults with intellectual disabilities or conditions such as cerebral palsy, autism, traumatic brain injury. Our mission, of course, is to empower and support people in being part of their greater community, either in employment or in work, life enriching activities. So when you kind of talked about the vision for independence, I thought about the work we've been doing in preparation for the Waiver Reimagine in 2021. We've added additional staff. We sat down with every person we serve to ask what they want. What does the perfect day look for them? What can we do to help them be happy and content in their day? And we realized, even though we've been heavily focused on employment for many, many years, we realized a good number of people were not interested in the employment component and wanted to be engaged in their community. So we have already begun taking that recommendation from the people we serve and have more people out in the community in activities they plan, they create, they sit down and create their schedule. They're going out volunteering. They're just doing activities within our greater community to be a part of it. And that's been a really successful endeavor that we, of course, have to continue, especially with the new 2021 plan. So in January, we are very busy. We support 62 people in independent job placement. We, on average, work at 13 different job sites each day that employ about 50 people. We go out in the community for career exploration or just community activities for many others in the day. And we also do employment skills building and center with work. So as most providers, we did close mid-March and sat empty, unable to serve many of our clients for the next 3 months. We did continue to work with those independently employed who were able to maintain their employment and were not laid off. We prepared for return to program. We've reworked our building, socially distanced our workspace, did our COVID screening protocols. We have face shields. We secured all the PPE we could from every great person in the community that was suddenly making this equipment. And we did have limited communication from DHS during this time. On May 11th, we did get an email telling us we should be closed, and as well as May 20th stating we could not reopen despite the governor's flexibility with businesses. On June 1st, we did get modifications from DHS to allow for reopening, but at a severely limited capacity, mostly due to the restrictions regarding people living in congregate services. So right now, under those restrictions, we're providing remote services to 15 people, work development in center to 27 people at 3 hours and 2 different shifts. And then we're also providing supervised crew employment for 23. We know people are hesitant in coming back to work. That isn't a focus of ours. We well know their coexisting medical conditions. And of course, our primary concern is keeping people safe. And we have reached out and talked to every one of those individuals and their families as well. Under these restrictions, we are currently seeing a deficit of $36,000 a week in regards to revenue versus our expenses. We have done everything we can to maintain our very critical workforce. We are so fortunate that our longevity of our employees at Options is truly unheard of in the industry. We have one program manager has been there almost 40 years, and we're 41 years old. So it is incredible the time our staff have, and which is so important to the services we provide. But last week we had to furlough over 50% of our employees, leaving 32 on payroll and 34 collecting unemployment insurance. The employees collecting insurance will draw from our unemployment trust fund. We do use a private trust, as certainly a lot of nonprofits do. They can draw through August 10th, at which point our trust fund will be emptied. We will have to be completely reimbursing the state using our cash on hand. We can continue to employ our full-time staff and pay unemployment benefits through the end of August, but at that time we do hit our cash 2-month reserves. And it is important that I share this with you because going into this, Options has been very financially healthy. We have absolutely no debt. We made an effort to be completely debt-free at the end of the disability waiver rate system banding ended. We want to focus on creating alternative revenue so we aren't so dependent on state funds. And we had very healthy reserves. So, however, at this point, we do not see a financially viable path to continue to remain open after August. So without some action from the state to help us and other providers, we'll be forced to close our doors permanently. And I do struggle understanding why we are in this position when Minnesota could have, reached out to and joined 36 other states and asked for Medicaid remittance payments to help us keep open. I do ask the question, was the closing of our programs predetermined at some to some degree, to be viewed as a casualty of the pandemic. Senate File 133 passed in the Senate last week, and it would have been the absolute lifeline that we so desperately needed. And I want to thank each and every one of you for all of your action and efforts in supporting us through this. Unfortunately, it didn't get done, and here we are. Many of us will close, leaving, taking away thousands of our most vulnerable citizens' services. I worked at a day program in 1985, and I think back at that time in disability service history, it was kind of where everything, the state hospitals were closing down and people were moving home. And I'm so thankful for everything we have at this point for quality and choice of services that are available. So, we must keep day services as an option for the many who do need it and choose not to be served just independently in the community. So,
Yeah, well, thank you.
Thank you.
And so I let you go along on purpose because actually you were presenting so well. You're making the point for a lot of the ones to follow. And so I think without too many comments, I'll continue on. But we only have like maybe 2 or 3 minutes for each person to say what they're going to say, because I want some time to discuss it. No, and just that was 7 minutes. But it was excellent testimony and a lot of good points. And so I'm interested in each testifier about what their situation is financially, and maybe like just 10 seconds on what it is you do, and how you're going to make it. I think universally you're all in trouble, and so we'll get to, I guess, the opinions about that. I still find myself just flabbergasted that the Senate seems to care and nobody else does. So anyway, so Ms. Vabra, welcome to the committee. Are you there?
Hi, thank you, Chairman Abler and the rest of the committee. Thank you for hearing us today. We agree that this is an essential topic to be discussing. I'm here today on behalf of Fraser and also for Aspire Minnesota, which is a coalition of therapeutic providers serving children throughout Minnesota. Fraser provides both CTSS day treatment and early intensive developmental and behavioral intervention services to very young children with autism. In 2019, we served 7,000 unique clients in our clinics. Many of these clients, children between the ages of 2 and 6, do not respond well to hours of intensive services via telehealth. The services that these children receive also do not lend themselves very well to social distancing. And for these reasons, we've seen a steep decrease in the number of clients we can serve in these programs. In March alone, we saw a 70% decrease in program attendance. We know that our services help our clients to build the social emotional skills that they need to successfully attend school, build relationships, and later in life, enter the workforce. And we know that investing in these services and these children saves the state money and improves their quality of life and is a win-win for all Minnesotans. So we have tried very hard as an organization to operate responsibly. The slim margins on these programs has not allowed us or our peers to build sufficient rainy day funds to weather a pandemic like COVID-19. So we have fixed costs like mortgage payments, rent, insurance premiums, and other business contracts that are necessary to continue, even though we're not seeing clients in our buildings. These costs do not decrease when we provide services to a smaller number of clients in our locations either. As a mid-sized nonprofit, Fraser has received no support from either state or federal government agencies since the pandemic began. We're working really hard to modify our service delivery and to trim costs, but like other providers and businesses, we're also seeing additional and new costs associated with these modifications and keeping everyone safe. This includes a $1 million unemployment insurance reimbursement cost for furloughed employees between March and June. We're anticipating that that number could grow to $3 million by December based on projections from our new service model, which at best will serve up to 60% of our pre-pandemic capacity. And this is if everyone stays healthy and we do not need to close any of our classrooms or buildings because of a COVID exposure. We know that the need—
You're at 3 minutes, so it goes so quick, but can you just kind of jump to 30 seconds of, if this bill doesn't pass, what's going to happen to you?
Yep, if this bill doesn't pass, we're not going to be able to continue providing services, and we're not going to be available to our clients now or in the future. So we thank you for your time, and we just ask you to support this bill so we can continue supporting clients.
Well, this is going to be a worse hearing than I thought. And some of those clients you have are young children who actually could recover enough so they could like do everything like they wanted to. So anyway, Mr. Pinsky, you gonna cheer me up?
Oh boy, that's a big
2.5
challenge.
to 3 minutes and tell us your story, please.
Yeah, good morning, Chairman Abler and committee members. Can you hear me?
Perfect, yeah.
Okay, very good. My name is Mike Pinsky. I'm the president of the Minnesota R80 NEMT Alliance, which represents NEMT providers in the rural 80 counties of Minnesota. And as you know, I'm also an NEMT provider myself, based in Mankato for the last 27 years, serving 10 South Central Minnesota counties. I'd like to begin by thanking this entire committee for continuing to focus on preserving the vital infrastructure that serves vulnerable, disabled, and elderly Minnesotans. As an NEMT provider myself, and as the president of the R80, I have a unique perspective of the state of the NEMT industry in Minnesota. Since its onset of the pandemic, I've fielded hundreds of calls from colleagues around the state, and all indicate that they're fearful of closing their doors permanently as the situation continues to deteriorate. Some providers, for example, are struggling with simple repairs of their vehicles due to cash flow. Others are considering to further downsize so they can realign with their economies of scale. And we've even had providers that have opened GoFundMe accounts in an attempt to raise cash to sustain operations. Considering that it's unlikely that any NEMT provider will return to pre-COVID levels for the foreseeable future, I believe that these issues are likely to worsen before they get better. And I believe that this has the potential to become a crisis of its own for those vulnerable, disabled, and elderly Minnesotans that rely on NEMT to access healthcare in rural Minnesota. Simply put, I believe providers are doing everything in their power to preserve their services and their businesses, but it's not enough, and we cannot do it alone, and we obviously need your help. To be transparent, we have brought these concerns to DHS, and we have had concise and focused conversations about what needs to be done. The department, however, continues to tell us that they cannot act independently, and the legislature must weigh in to address these needs. So today, we turn to our elected officials to help prevent further deterioration of this vital infrastructure. I believe that we all recognize it is far more cost-effective to maintain something than it is to replace it. And this is certainly true of the NEMT infrastructure here in Minnesota. We are doing real damage in real time to the infrastructure, and the time to act, I believe, is now. I believe that Senate File 133 is a measured and appropriate and necessary response to help inject stability into the NEMT industry and create hope for providers that they will survive this crisis. Senate File 133 is the proverbial light at the end of the tunnel, if you will, and it will help providers persevere through an unprecedented crisis. I also believe that Senate File 133 is not just preserving infrastructure, providers, and access for those in need, but we are actually preserving our shared values and our culture and what it means to call ourselves Minnesotans. And I thank you for the opportunity, Senator Abler.
And Mr. Pinsky, what percentage of your providers would close statewide, do you think, if this doesn't pass, or let's say if this doesn't pass, some are going to close. And I don't know, how many are going to close if we don't do this?
So some have already closed, as you've indicated. I believe the real potential damage is that providers will not be able to adequately cover the need across the state, because we're going to continue to downsize to try to get back to a profitable level. I ran my numbers yesterday. I'm at 39% of capacity as compared to a year ago, and that is just simply unsustainable. My only option moving forward is to borrow money to stay in business. And with all the unknowns out in the future, that becomes a very difficult decision to make.
Thanks. And so maybe if you can get us some numbers on how many have closed and how many are on the bubble. So would you say a third or a half are at risk? Is that a fair number?
I'd say at least half, if not more.
Will close.
Will close.
Yeah. And just want to point out that the Senate cares about that. So thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Ms. Calvert, welcome to the committee. Are you there? Unmute yourself, please. I can see you. See your lips moving. You have to unmute yourself, please. I'd send you a 14-year-old, but I don't have one handy, so.
Okay.
There you go. Welcome.
Sorry.
So just a couple minutes on how things will go and so on, but welcome.
I will get right to the point, Senator Abler, and thank you, because I know there are a lot of people. And I'm outside because I was on vacation and heard about this, and my cabin doesn't have Wi-Fi, so I'm sorry if it's going to be a little loud. I'm at a
You're on
cafe.
top of a hill, pointing your phone toward toward a city. Okay. Well, you're coming through fine, so thanks.
Okay, good. So I'm the founder and executive director of Interact Center for the Visual and Performing Arts. It's an art center for adults with disabilities, where art is their way of earning a living. And we do original shows. We performed in the Guthrie. We've done European tours. We have an art segment that does gallery openings. Now we started doing virtual openings. Almost immediately, Interact created a very robust remote learning program. We have 120 artists, and it's been doing really well. We have all kind of classes. We have breakout sessions. Many of our artists are doing workshops themselves. The problem is, and so, this is going really well. We've gotten computers donated. The problem is there are lots of restrictions on remote learning now. We can only do 4 hours a day, even though our artists want to do their full day, which is normally 6.5 hours. We have a 6-to-1 ratio, which is less than we have when we're in our space. And these are all high functioning people with disabilities, and schools are allowed to have a 1-to-25 ratio with 8-year-olds. My granddaughter was doing remote learning at school. She's 8. Although, so we're unable to, we have to have a 6-to-1 ratio. So we have to have a higher staff ratio than before we closed. And the other problem is we're unable to, because of rules that are set in place, we can't take new people into our program, although we have about 25 people on a waiting list, and many of the people that used to be at Interact that are now unemployed are wanting to get back in, and because of rules and regs, we're unable to take them back in. So some of the rules around remote are actually restricting our ability to reach out to more people that are badly in need of programming. Even when we do open up, over 50% of our client artists have underlying conditions and will not be able to come back until there's a vaccine. So I think there needs to be the ability to open your center and also continue with remote learning, and that if some of these rules and regs were changed, we would be able to survive. But as it is now, we're only, with all of the programming we've developed, and we're actually doing many more hours than we're able to bill for, because that's what the artists want. We are only able to bill at 30% of what we did before. So we're now having to furlough our staff for the second time in the pandemic, because we did get the PPP grant, which enabled us to hire people back. Now we're going to have to refurlough them part-time so we can continue to do our remote learning. But
Ms. Calvert, we're at time. So
yeah,
if this, are you at danger of going out of business if we don't do something
yes,
like this, Bill?
we will, if, yeah, we will be going out of business by the end
All
of the
right.
year, and that's with people on it part-time, if things
Yeah.
aren't changed.
And I
Yeah.
hope that, I know the department's listening, so I hope they're taking notes about the ill effects of well-intended numbers and hours per day. And anyway, so I never thought some of those hours per day made sense. Anyway, we'll talk about that some more.
Thank you.
And so very good. And Mr. Nichols, welcome to the committee. We've heard from you before. If you could be pretty succinct in telling us just the bottom line of where we're at, maybe in 2 minutes, that would be great. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Chairman Abler and committee members for the opportunity. Again, as noted, I've visited with this committee prior, so I'll spare you some of the background other than to say we serve or did prior to pandemic about 500 kids and families, kids on the autism spectrum from the age of 2 to 21. We have taken so many measures to accommodate, make change, adapt to the new realities, cut costs, renegotiate facility contracts, leases, on and on and on. Too long a list to mention in this testimony, but have done everything at least available to us, cut permanently, reduced staffing, initially had furloughed over 325 people. Bottom line, the two asks you had is do we support the bill? Absolutely, unequivocally. Any amount of assistance moving forward, I think, will not only help us, but many of our peer organizations as well. And in addition, the impact, well, I think it would be premature for us to legitimately say we would simply go out of business. We will be faced with more and more extreme measures, which will definitely compromise our ability to return anywhere near pre-pandemic levels of service. And that just directly means that hundreds and hundreds of kids and families will not have the services. Currently, we're at about 50% of where we were. And a lot of that continues to be not even full services, but about 50% of the numbers that we were serving before. So we have a long way to go to return to anything that even closely resembles to the pre-pandemic levels. So
that's about the,
appreciate the support.
Take a sentence.
I'm sorry, I just said it. Definitely appreciate the support and the efforts of this committee.
When just the people you don't serve aren't just some people who aren't getting served. They're kids that are going to face a lifetime of problems they wouldn't have otherwise had to face.
Yeah, and quite honestly, we have about 17 families right now that have kids that are extremely challenging. In the mental health world, there's kind of these levels. Several of these kids are kind of in that level 4 category or on the borders thereof. And currently, because of just numbers of factors and restrictions, just unable to serve them effectively back in the centers. And it's just it's a cascade effect, with the health and the financial constraints right now. It is very difficult. And one final piece, as much as we've done, as much as we've tried, we still had a 6-figure loss in May and anticipate more than that or nearly the same in June. We just need the assistance.
Thanks for the math challenge. 6 figures is a lot.
Yes.
So thank you, and we're trying to help. Mr. Monks, welcome to the committee. Can you take a couple minutes and offer us your thoughts, please?
Yes, thank you. My name is Richard Monks, and I have a son who attends Merrick Inc. And I was so grateful to learn about this place after he was finishing his public school program at age 22, because they really don't tell you a lot. They just tell you, here's a transition plan, but they don't exactly say what you're transitioning to, other than no more services from Department of Ed. So he's been in Merrick now for a few years, and has been doing really well there, working in the document destruction area, destroying documents that are provided to them. And it was, he's full time. I just can't imagine how it would be for a parent with their son or daughter finishing high school now and seeking to apply to one of these places and finding that not only you can't really count on getting in for many months probably until somehow this is over. But from our standpoint, if this ends, well, as an example, when it ended with the COVID problem, he suddenly became not employed there. And he needs a self-contained environment because there is stuff like property destruction at home and there can be meltdowns. But when he's not doing those things, he's really productive and nonverbal, absolutely no verbal expression, but can understand verbal input. So I would be panicked if I were a parent now with a son graduating, a son or daughter like that. But in Reynolds' situation, when he stopped, I stopped, and I had to go places with him every day. I actually enjoy being with him, but to keep him from having problems here at home. So he and I would pick up and go put our masks on and go around different stores, supermarkets, shop almost every day. He's now back half-time, or I think it's less than half-time at Merrick. They were able to take a few people back, but I understand it's only because he lives with us and that the people in group homes are absolutely still not being able to be there. So my concern is I'd hate to see places like this go out of business. I mean, I remember back in 1970, in the 70s, working for one of these places at part-time nights. And I didn't know that was going to be a growing thing, but it has grown a lot in Minnesota. So I was surprised to hear that somehow or other the House didn't really fully consider the issue. And I hope they're going to have a special session and really get to it, because I'm thankful that your Senate File 133 was passed to you, Mr. Abler, Mr. Hoffman, and my own senator too, as Mr. Isaacson. I'm so thankful.
Yeah, and the reason I'm touting the Senate here is this was absolutely stepped above all the partisan fray. This was such a key thing, and so I'm actually kind of proud of our Senate, and I think the House just doesn't understand. So hopefully all you can remind them about what's going to happen. So
I
thank
hope
you very
so.
much, Mr. Monks, and God bless
Thank
you and Reynolds.
Thank you.
So Tom Weaver, can you give us 2 minutes? We kind of know the layout of the land, and you have an amazing place in Anoka County. Go ahead, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm the CEO of Achieve Services in Blaine, and we've been providing day and employment services in Anoka County since 1964. We serve about 200 adults with developmental disabilities, and the last time I checked, we had over 100 people on our waiting list. I'm also on the board of MORE, our trade association, which consists of 100 or so nonprofits across the state, and collectively we provide services and supports to about 26,000 Minnesotans with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Obviously, I'm here to support Senate File 133 and the current bill we're talking about, and given the 67-0 vote last week, I know I'm preaching to the choir, but I want to express my sincere gratitude to you, Chairman Abler, and all of the members of the committee. Achieve and most MORE members shut our doors in mid-March and went nearly 3 months with virtually no reimbursement revenue. And reimbursement revenue, by the way, typically accounts for between 85 and 95% of our total revenue. Recently, we were able to restart some services, but only in a very limited capacity. In fact, at Achieve, our billing is now about 20% of what it costs to pay our staff, and we're running a deficit of over $650,000. We are also implementing our second round of furloughs beginning this afternoon. MORE estimates that without some relief, at least 10% of our members will go out of business by mid-July. Some already have, and as you've heard, more will follow. And I want to make clear that this is not about saving programs. It's a much bigger issue than that. This is about the quality of life for some of the most vulnerable citizens in Minnesota. This is about ensuring that people with developmental disabilities across Minnesota continue to have access to the services they choose and the quality of services they deserve. The people we serve as have the same needs and dreams and desires we all have, and they have the same right to the opportunities you and I have, which includes the right to employment that gives them not just an income, but a sense of self-worth, access to volunteer activities. They want to help others because that helps them feel valued. They want to gather with friends, go fishing, visit our parks and recreate, and they want to learn to live with more independence. And they rely on us to give them access to those opportunities, and we rely on you to give us the resources so we can provide those opportunities. We are failing them. We are a far cry from one Minnesota when we leave people with disabilities in the shadows. And I hate to be a skeptic, but from where I sit, if the state's intent is to permanently shut down day and employment services for people with disabilities, then it's got a really good plan in place. If that's not the intent, then something needs to happen, and it needs to happen soon. Again, Mr. Chair, and this entire committee, we deeply appreciate your support. And please, if you have any suggestions on how we can get the other two legs of the stool to follow your lead, I'd love to hear them. We're anxious to help. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Oh, thanks. And you mentioned the 650,000. Is that an annualized number?
That's to date.
You're sure it's 650,000 to date since March?
Yes.
Well, those 6-digit figures are another big one. So, yeah, Tom, I don't know what to tell you, but I appreciate you being here. And I won't ask you specifically, how close you are to not being there, but that money adds up pretty quick.
Yes,
so we're with you. Yeah, thanks for your good testimony. Ms. Eisenmenger, did I say it right? Welcome to the committee. The closer you can do to 2 minutes, I would like it because I want a chance to talk.
All right. Well, yeah.
Thanks.
Good morning. My name is Sue Eisenmenger. I'm the Executive Director of STEP Incorporated. We provide employment and day services to over 100 adults with disabilities in very southern Minnesota. We work in very rural counties just on the Iowa border. So testifying today in support of Senate File 133. It's very needed funding. As you've heard from most of other day and employment providers, we are in a world of hurt. We are currently providing very limited services, primarily just employment support services for people who have been essential workers during the COVID-19 situation. However, that has reduced our revenue about 85%. We're losing about 130,000 in medical assistance every month. So it's significant. I do not believe that we will be able to continue to go much past the summer. Yesterday, I met with our board members and managers and are furloughing majority of our employees and starting to talk about ways to dismantle the organization if it comes to that. Right now, we're pretty much working on a day-to-day, week-to-week kind of situation, trying to determine how much farther we can go and how much longer we can go. We are trying to stay in business for the people that we work with, help them keep their employment going. And we have another 75 people who are waiting for services to resume in different kinds of settings. So I've been doing this for over 40 years. I had the privilege of being part of the system change when state hospitals closed and was honored to be part of that system. We did the very right thing in returning people to their communities. And it's very upsetting and disturbing to see that whole system that was developed during that time is kind of crumbling and falling apart. And I don't see any ways that people are working to get it started again, except for this the Senate bill that you're talking about now. All of us are working through this COVID-19 situation. We're all going to have difficulties trying to come out on the other side of it. We're all going to recover in different ways. And the people with disabilities specifically are probably going to have fewer resources to use to recover with this, and are going to need greater support. And I'm afraid that services that have been supporting them all these years are not going to be there for them to do that. So I would definitely encourage their support of some kind of retention grants for services like ours.
And Ms. Eisenmenger, I can just hear in your voice the passion. And
I didn't know if I was going to get through it.
you did fine, but the news is not good. So this is just horrible testimony. I mean, you did a good job of telling a bad story.
Yeah.
Ms. Lamping, I don't imagine you're going to cheer me up either. But so welcome to the committee, and we've heard from a number of your contemporaries. So if you can kind of talk about some of the math and what's going to happen to your specific place and other ones you know of, given the status quo, and what if this will rescue you. Go ahead. Welcome to the committee.
Thank you, Chair Abler and committee members. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak. My name is Dawn Lamping. I'm the Executive Director at Floodwood Services and Training. We're a disability and older adult service provider. We provide employment and daytime enrichment supports to about 60 older adults and individuals with disabilities. I live and work in the small community of Floodwood. We're about 40 miles west of Duluth. Over the last 43 years, FST has weathered some challenging times, but none have been as challenging or devastating as the current crisis. Unless our program receives emergency funding very soon, we will close. Most of our services were closed in mid-March to help prevent the spread. As a result, my organization has been losing approximately 95% of our monthly revenues. I've done everything possible to reduce costs. I've applied for grants. Our community has been generous. Our small reserves are quickly diminishing. We can only operate for about 6 more weeks. Closure will mean lack of access to meaningful employment and daytime enrichment activities for adults with disabilities in my community. That's why I'm testifying in strong support of Senate File 133. Our inability to provide services over the last 3 months has been devastating to those with disabilities we support. We're hearing stories about declines in both physical and mental health due to the isolation of individuals with disabilities being at home for extended periods of time. If we're forced to close permanently, individuals will not have choice about when and where to receive supports. This is a setback. This setback is honoring. This is a setback in honoring the rights of individuals with disabilities. If FST closes, the Floodwood community will stand to lose programs for individuals with disabilities, day services for older adults, Meals on Wheels, senior dining, food shelf, bus services, caregiver support programs, chore services for older adults, recycling services, and that comes with a huge financial impact on our community. So I'm asking for your support, and thank you for your past support. We cannot return from this pandemic to a greatly weakened system of disability, employment, and day enrichment supports. Our program is great. We are truly a community-based program. We are a hub in our community. Our participants are out in the program. They're acknowledged by our community members as they provide the supports that they do. We're going to lose those if our program closes, and that can happen very soon. So thank you.
Well, and thank you. I knew this would be difficult testimony. I didn't know it'd be this hard. So anyway, I think Mr. Best has signed up, but I don't think he's here. Is that right? If you are, speak up quick. Anyway, so thank you, Ms. Lamping. We're going to go to questions. Actually, I'm going to let the department respond if they would like. They didn't choose to testify. So they can just ruminate if they want to offer their own reactions. Their name has come up a few times. So after I finish my little comment here, then I'll see if the department wants to comment or just respond to direct questions. And so far I have Utke and Hoffman on the list. Can't even do this. So I'm so impressed with the depth of commitment and passion about the people who serve the however many people in Minnesota that have some kind of disability. It's probably 100,000 or better. So anyway, thank you for that. And Ms. Lamping, I think you're just the epitome of the exemplar of what we're so proud of, and as are all the rest of you. So would the department like to comment? Would that be Natasha? Do you want to? The floor is yours if you like it, or if somebody else was going to speak up. Mr. Burdick, is that?
Hey, thank you, Mr. Chair. Matt Burdick with the Department of Human Services. We do have folks here to answer questions. We really appreciate hearing the testimony today. We've been taking notes on specific issues that organizations are facing, and certainly informs our decision making here, but really just here to be a resource to the committee as you have this discussion.
Okay, Senator Rutke, welcome. The floor is yours. We have, we're gonna go at least until 10:30 and a little longer if we need to, but take your time or don't take your, whatever. Anyways, your floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. And actually, I had kind of buzzed in earlier, but you were asking the same question, and that was, and our testifiers gave us that information too, and that was important. You know, basically, you know, we found out how much you're losing or the loss of revenue, and I was interested in how much longer that they would be able to operate under these conditions, because that's the important data to push forward. We know it's dire straits, but to say 6 weeks or 2 months, that really puts more emphasis on those dire straits. And I appreciate all the testifiers. You did a great job. Just like I see here with my local providers, the up to 40 years of employment in this industry is just incredible. I mean, people pour their hearts, their lives, and their souls into what they're doing to serve these clients. And right now, they're all struggling. And we just thank you for what you're doing and support you. And hopefully, we're able to support you financially here real soon. So, with that, Mr. Chair, I'll pass it back to you.
And Senator, if you wanted, and so it looks like most of our testifiers are still here. So if someone had a question for a specific testifier, that's an option. And then we have a number of people from the department as well. Anyway, so is that all you need, Paul?
Yes, that's good. Okay. Thank you.
Senator Hoffman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members, and thank you once again for bringing this attention forward, Senator Abler and members. I really wanted to reach out and say to those providers, ones at Fraser providing this early intervention services and some school-based services there that just, you know, aren't be able to be provided anywhere else. And even when we look at what Penske brought up with non-emergency medical transportation, there's also an issue that we know through the Minnesota insurance plan that we already have lost non-emergency medical transportation providers. And to hear that we're not going to be able to get people into the community to get to appointments or to do what they need to do is really sad to hear. And we've known this for a long time, but to really think about Senator Abler back in March 22nd, when we knew CMS released guidelines that based off allowances were to assist states in COVID. And since then, we saw the options that were available. It started with Wisconsin and Illinois. One highlight is the state of Washington, where they went to CMS and started to ask for some variances or some flexibility within their current waiver system. And it's a simple 8-page request, and I will upload already a pre-filled one out that if DHS would like to respond why they did not do that, I would be appreciative of that, because as of early as April, Senator Abler, and remember, we brought up this issue a long time before that, states were getting the Appendix K approvals. And we know, and I want to thank Brenda for bringing that up, that 36 states, including the District of Columbia, as of a couple of last week, got approval. And not only that, but CMS was backdating their request to March 1st. So on these, so it begs to ask multiple questions. I'm not going to take much time on this first one, but I would really like to know why the department wasn't being proactive when we were bringing this stuff up, Senator Abler, back in March and April.
Well, let's find out. Ms. Mertz, would you be the one to answer that question? It looks like you're the ranking policy member on the call. Are you there, Natasha? There you are. Hello.
Hello, Senator Abler. Can you hear me?
I can. Nice.
All right. Sorry about that. Had to deal with my unmuting issues, but Mr. Chair, members of the committee, there were several barriers or are barriers to using the federal Appendix K authority related to retainer payments for day services. The first was that under Appendix K, my understanding is that those retainer payments were only available for 30 days. And so that would really solve the root of this problem. What we chose to do instead was really focus on ensuring that we provided alternative options for service deliveries and focus time and attention on trying to pave the way for providers to be able to provide these services through remote channels or change the nature or definition of the service so that they could be provided in people's homes, subject to restrictions we felt were necessary in consultation with the Department of Health to ensure that we weren't creating policy that would have the unintended consequence of increasing the spread of COVID-19 infections. The second reason or thing that that was a barrier to doing what Senator Hoffman suggests is we needed or would need legislative authority for the state share of the Appendix K that would come from the retainer payments.
Senator Hoffman.
So Senator Abler, that's a true statement after the May budget reiteration or whatever. There was $42 million that was dropped to the bottom line that if they would have addressed this back before the May budget was shot, you would have gotten not only the 42 million or whatever, some of that, but you would have also got that federal match. And so basically we saw $84 million drop to the bottom line that would have been services to people with disabilities throughout this system. And so even if it was 30 days, if you look at the list from Georgia on out, Ms. Natasha, you would have seen that there was some extensions that were existing. There's some more extensions. CMS was even providing technical assistance to states that don't have a 1915K provision or 1115C, D, and E provision. One state, for example, Idaho, they even asked them, how can we be flexible within this? Senator Abler, I have communication with Centers for Medicaid Services that absolutely debunk what was just said. So I'll attach the 8-page request form and simply ask again, even if it was 30 days, we wouldn't be sitting here right now because we would have had some federal match and that money wouldn't have dropped to the bottom line.
Ms. Mertz.
Mr. Chair, I am going to ask my colleague Elise Bailey to respond to some of those things, if that's okay with you.
All righty, and so as you move into the discussion, I think it's a productive one. And I don't think that DHS intended for the current circumstance to be there, but when you hear the Ms. Lamping talking about her Floodwood operation getting 5% of the revenue, I'm not sure that's what you had in mind, thinking they could survive on that. And so there's the pandemic came, it was nobody's fault, it just kind of showed up. But the reactions and then the tweaking of the reactions and the rejiggering of the reactions are really on us, in plural. So, and I'm, anyway, so all this, and so I'm just curious what the departments, so we'll get into it and maybe Ms. Bailey can throw this into her chat, but I have to think this is not very good news. And I have to think none of the testimony today surprises you. So, so go ahead, Ms. Bailey, welcome to the committee. Appreciate that.
Hi, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Elise Bailey. I'm the Fiscal Policy Director for the department. To just answer the question briefly, I believe that the appropriation prior to the May forecast was based on services that would be provided to individuals, and using those dollars for retainer payments or for payments that were for services not provided would be a deviation from what the appropriation was intended for. So I think I think that's where we were coming from as far as needing legislative approval to utilize those funds for a different purpose. Essentially, the retainer payments are for services not provided.
Senator Hoffman's talking with his hands. Go ahead.
I am, Mr. Chair, and thank you. I know my vocalization on that, but again, that's a misconception of what you got from other states. For example, one state on the West Coast, the Medicaid director of the state, we asked specifically how hard was it to get the state and the federal match, because CMS said, yeah, you can use the retainer plus you can use some of the federal match dollars. So that's already there because states put in their plan. And I'd be more than happy to share all those plans that my legislative assistant absolutely dug in and sent with people. But the thing with the fact that the Medicaid director said to us when we asked him specifically, how hard, two questions, how hard was it to get CMS approval? And he said, basically, we did our one column request. We did the 8 pages, clicked the boxes, sent it in, and they actually did a 1-page letter and got back a 7 or 8 page response from the Centers for Medicaid Services. And then we specifically asked, did you have to seek legislative approval in order to do that? And he said, no, why would I have to? I'm the Medicaid director. If you look at the bottom of that, page 8, it says who authorizes this, and it's the state's Medicaid director. So I don't know where the conversation or communication breakdown was about the fact that you needed to have legislative approval. And if that's the case, we kind of gave that in Senate File 4200, where the governor could have just done an executive order, and he could still do that right now, just executive order Senate File 133, and this conversation is now done. So I don't find that to be a fully due diligent response to what I know 36 other states, including the District of Columbia, have done, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And I have Senator Kiffmeyer on the list, but I just want to go a little further into this. I think probably you're both correct. I believe that given Executive Order 20-12, that there was flexibility in how we adjust our payments, and I'm having a hard time believing that we could not have used some of the money before it dropped to the bottom line in May to make up the match. And so,
can I clarify, Mr. Chair, one thing?
Please.
30 days is at 100%. Some states did less. So let's be very clear. If you're going to drop out the 30-day thing, that's at 100%. Some states did less.
All right. And that's meaningful as well. Ms. Mertz, I think I'm correct in saying you're the ranking person here. So I would ask the commissioner if she were here. But you watched the testimony, and it just must break your heart personally. But you don't work for the department personally. You work for the department as under the chain of command. You've got a governor and a commissioner and a hierarchy there. And so what you like isn't what may be happening. So I'm not asking you personally, but so I was a little surprised the department didn't have like a 1-page comment like, yes, this is very important. We're worried about the future of the programs. The integrity of a good system Minnesota's been used to is critical to us. And so can you just speak on behalf of the department? Are you guys worried about this? Is this like, oh my, or is it like, we're good? It sounds to me like the department is saying, no, we're good. And I don't think you mean that. And I'm not even asking you about you, but if you could clarify the view of the department about like Floodwood. Would you miss them if they were gone? Would you miss Achieve if they were gone? Would you miss all those autism providers and the kids that aren't going to be served if they were gone? Please, if you will.
And members of the committee, I appreciate the opportunity to share a little more about how we've been the department and what the different options are for these vital services. I am certainly here to of the Disability Services Division and as the representative of the Department of Human Services that we consider the services provided by our day services providers vital to the infrastructure for services for people with disabilities. I think the whole is that
Ms. Mertz, your sound is horrible.
Lean
You're,
into the
you're
microphone.
like the McDonald's guy, you know, trying to get the order. So it's hard to understand you.
Better if I'm a little closer to the microphone.
It's
Mr. Chair.
like every third word goes away.
I am sorry for the technology. It'd be helpful for me to change my audio connection and then come back to me and call in through phone better.
Yeah, why don't you, I mean, I don't think that your intention is going to come through real well with the quality of the audio.
Let me see if we can go on to a couple of things on the list and I'll switch back and come back and respond to
Yeah,
that.
why don't you call us back?
Okay.
So I think I'll move on to the next question, and then so you can rejoin us, because I know you want to reply to that. Senator Kiffmeyer. Senator Kiffmeyer, do you want to ask your question? Are you there? Ms. Mertz, do you want to try to talk now, or are you still dialing back in? Have I gone away?
No, you have not gone away.
Okay, thanks. I kind of wonder sometimes. So Senator Kiffmeyer, are you there?
Mr. Chair, I think Senator Kiffmeyer's feed completely froze, so it looks like she logged out of the meeting and is maybe going to try and rejoin shortly.
Alrighty. Any other questions from other members while we're waiting for Ms. Mertz to rejoin us and Senator Kiffmeyer to unfreeze? There you are, Senator Kiffmeyer. I see you moving. Can you just unmute, and it's your turn if you would like to ask a question.
So, Mr. Chair, did I miss Ms. Mertz answer, or is she going to come back on?
She's hopefully going to call back. I don't think we can even suggest that she gave us an answer. It was too choppy.
Right. Okay.
So they'll take your question, and I hope she shows up. But you have other Ms. Bailey's there, and Ms. Grom, and Mr. Burdick are there at least. So go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is very puzzling when we have a unanimous vote in the Senate and a lack of action in the House, and the governor is neutral. And when I hear this from DHS, I don't find so far the information that they've given is credible. It just is puzzling, allowing 42 million to drop when there has been such clear presentation in your committee, Mr. Chairman. So I am finding it just a very big credibility gap that you can make these statements as they are so far. So I'm really actually waiting more, but I was wondering, did they get a communication? Mr. Burdick could answer this one. Was there a communication from Governor Walz directing you to proceed on this, to make every effort? Was there a communication from Governor Walz that you can share with us, Mr. Burdick?
Mr. Burdick, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Senator Kiffmeyer. Could you clarify specifically what you're referring to? Are you referring to this bill or some other activities?
Senator Kiffmeyer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No, Mr. Burdick, what I'm referring to is the ability to contact the Center for Medicaid Services on behalf of the state of Minnesota, just like all these other states have done, over 30 of them. And they made that request. They made it timely. This was well known as an issue in the month of March, in the month of April, in the month of May. And it's just baffling to me, Mr. Burdick. And so I'm just wondering, did Governor Walz give direction to DHS to execute the request to CMS to send off that application? Did Governor Walz give direction to DHS to do that?
Mr. Burdick.
Mr. Chair, Senator Kiffmeyer, I don't have any direct knowledge of what directive was given on that front. I do know that, as Ms. Merz talked about, we have been trying to make every effort to support people with disabilities and really everyone that's been impacted by COVID using various flexibilities. We have been in contact with CMS on a number of issues, but I don't have a direct answer to your question today. I'm sorry.
Senator Kiffmeyer.
Yeah, well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So Mr. Burdick.
Ms. Mertz might be back. Are you
Yes.
tuned in there, Natasha?
And Mr. Chair, if I might.
Well,
yeah,
I'd like to follow up with Mr. Burdick, though.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, it's fine.
You're
Senator.
saying that you didn't get any direction from the governor to go ahead and fill out the application during March, April, or May prior to this dropping to the bottom line. You got no direction from the governor to go ahead and fill out that form and send in the request, because certainly if there was anything lacking, CMS would certainly have told you what that was. But if you don't even put in the application, don't even make the request. So I'm just wondering, did Governor Walz give you direction to fill out that form and send in the request to CMS?
Mr. Burdick.
Mr. Chair, Senator Kiffmeyer, I think the issue here that we're facing is we don't believe we had the state law authority to seek that specific request, as was outlined by my previous colleagues.
Well, Mr. Burdick, you're saying you think you didn't have the authority? Well, certainly the governor, who is responsible and for DHS, did the governor give you direction to apply and so that you could find out?
Mr. Burdick.
Mr. Chair, Senator Kiffmeyer, again, I don't have direct knowledge of what directives were given around this, other than for us to, do everything in our power to make sure we've got a stable system here in Minnesota. And so on this particular issue, we did respond to the feedback that was provided by a number of people, looked into this, and again came to the conclusion that we didn't have the specific authority, which is why we've been providing technical assistance to the legislature for many months on these topics.
Senator Kiffmeyer.
Yeah, that's very disappointing answer, Mr. Burdick, because I think the best place for you to have gone first was to go and make the request to CMS. If CMS said back to you, well, yes, we'll give it to you. And now you can say, okay, they're going to go ahead and give it to us. Now we just need to say, yep, they'll do it. And if there's some issue in state legislation, you could have brought that to us, but you could have brought it to us with an okay from CMS that said, yes, you can do it. That just baffles me. I know about how state government executive branch works. And the most logical thing is you ask, and then you get an answer. So I'm just baffled that there wouldn't even be the requests. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I think, Ms. Mertz, are you, let's see how your audio is working now.
Mr. Chair, can you hear me? Is that better?
That's a lot better.
Much better.
And I had one of my advisors suggested if you turn your camera off, that gives you more bandwidth or something. But go ahead, Ms. Mertz. So far, we're good. So there was a question you were trying to answer, and I'm eager to hear that answer. And maybe after that, respond to Senator Kiffmeyer. Go ahead.
Certainly. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, thank you for your patience as I had to struggle with my technology a little bit. What I was intending to communicate and do intend to communicate to the committee this morning is how vital and important we do believe and think these services and know that these services are for people that use services and for the communities in which these settings are located. We certainly understand that they are a vital part of our disability services infrastructure, and they are also the providers of facility-based day services are also the providers we are looking to innovate and help our state move forward with competitive integrated employment pursuant to our Employment First policy. And so we wish to be in partnership with providers of these services to address issues that are happening right now related to COVID. And as Mr. Burdick mentioned, we have tried to focus our efforts on providing flexibilities and alternative service delivery models that would allow people to still be served while providers are getting paid. And I absolutely appreciate, acknowledge, and understand that those flexibilities have not been sufficient revenue producers to bridge the gap. I hear that in testimony today, and it is troubling, and it is something we need to work on. We have been in close contact with more. We have been meeting with them weekly, trying to sort through different options and flexibilities that would address some of the concerns. But I hear and acknowledge the testimony today that those efforts haven't produced the revenue that is necessary to keep these businesses afloat. I think the other thing I just want to acknowledge or make sure that I communicate on behalf of the department is we also know that people that use services rely on these providers for the provision of service, but also for their important social, emotional connections for people. And the ability to go to work and receive day services is also vital to people's emotional and social health and well-being. And the providers that have testified here today are key components and key players in helping us meet those needs for people. So I appreciate the opportunity to share on behalf of the Disability Services Division what we really think and believe. And I certainly appreciate and understand the concerns that are being raised in testimony today. And I will pause there for the time being.
Thanks, Ms. Mertz. Have you actually read Senate File 133 or the new draft that we have?
Yes, I have, Senator.
Okay, because I just wanted to notice that your testimony, your comments were about day services. But if you look at on the lower part of page 1, first part of page 2, it is adult day services, DT&H, day support services, pre-vocational services, and those, but it's also employment exploration, employment development services, employment support services, CTSS, EIDBI, and NEMT. And so we've had pretty much at least one of each of those, or at least the representative sample. So just to help you with what's being brought forward here is the entire system of all these services is on the edge of collapse. And I know you only a little, but Mr. Burdick struggled to answer the question because it's a hard question to answer. Mr. Burdick has his own opinions and thoughts, but he works for a department and works for a governor. And so I think Senator Kiffmeyer and Senator Hoffman are wondering, well, where was the governor to point out the ill effects of what might be going on? You didn't know at the beginning that you might have known when you closed day services right away and these other places closed because of distancing and stay-at-home orders and all that, that they were going to have like no revenue. But you can't foresee that, all the impacts of it. But by April, we were thinking that should have been kind of noticeable. By May for sure, now it's June. And this is like, you heard the Titanic is sinking, so you sent out a new ship from New York to get there in time to find nothing. And all the while expressing your concern for the passengers on the ship. And you find a few lifeboats drifting around, pick them up and go home. We are at that point, as you well know. And so I've had many discussions about this with your commissioner, and I like her a lot. And it seems like there was some reticence to pay people for doing nothing. I think we're moving beyond that because actually they're trying to do something and you've tried to be flexible. So Senate File 133 didn't pass. The governor was neutral. Thank you for being neutral at least. This didn't pass. Can you kind of help me point forward? What plan does the department have now to keep Floodwood open? There was a comment that maybe you don't want Floodwood to be open. Maybe, I don't know if Floodwood said that, but one of the two testifiers mentioned like, oh, I guess you don't want us anymore. You could, you're going to accomplish your mission. I don't believe that's your mission, but that's a really important comment that somebody made. Could you react to that, which I don't believe is your intent, but also then what is the plan going forward to rescue all these operations that are, many of which will be gone? Thanks, Ms. Mertz.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, I want to first address the comment in previous testimony that there is some type of plan to drive certain day service providers out or that we don't care about them. And I'm here to categorically say that is not our intention. That is not our plan. There is no secret plan in the Department of Human Services to push day services out of business because of a global health pandemic. Even as we are trying to continuously improve and evolve our system of long-term care services and supports over decades, we recognize and acknowledge that we can't pull the rug out from under people and fundamentally make changes without a long stakeholder input process and a lot of work. So we would never create an internal plan to do something without being fully transparent about our intentions. And, I think consistent with the Employment First policy, we do want to at least pre-COVID, slowly over time, help providers of DT&H and sheltered workshops transition to providing additional competitive integrated employment services, as well as community-based day services with, and this is related to some services that will be coming up in 2021. To help with that. So we do have a long-term plan of evolving our system through stakeholder, with stakeholder engagement, hearing from people that use services, providers of those services, where our state needs to go. We certainly don't think we're the only ones that know. We know how important it is to be a part of the change process. So I just want to be really clear that there is no plan to leverage this global health pandemic and crisis to target a particular provider set within the disability services community. That is just, it is fundamentally untrue.
And I thought as much. So now can you comment about your plan going forward, please? How you plan to, flood was at 5%. Everybody here is on the verge of not being open. If you wait till August, there will be less people to have to bring to the stakeholder meeting. So what is the department's plan or the governor's plan to deal with this emergency? You have a new emergency on your hands. What is that plan, Ms. Mertz?
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, we have been in close consultation with the day service provider advocacy organization to identify additional flexibilities and additional ways that we can continue to turn the dial to allow business to resume closer to what was normal pre-COVID. So that has been our plan and our approach, as well as providing those flexibilities to provide services remotely, to provide services in people's homes. There are current limits on being able to provide services in licensed day center facilities. And the basis and reason for those restrictions is really trying to be responsible stewards of our public programs and not setting up providers and people to be in situations where infection and disease will continue to spread. We do also see and are paying very close attention to the statistics related to COVID-related infections in the disability community and the population of the state overall, and that absolutely informs our decisions about what flexibilities we continue to provide, as well as how we can get back to normal business as usual. I understand that there's disappointment in this committee about the department not seeking retainer payments sooner. I think consistent with what Mr. Burdick said, our position, our understanding was that we would need legislative authority in order to seek a retainer payment related to the state share cost of those retainer payments. So that has been, I think we didn't view that as something we can do unilaterally. We felt it would be an overstep of our authority under even the substantial emergency powers the department's been granted through the executive orders.
And I have Utke and Kiffmeyer, coming up, so Ms. Mertz, and you just happen to be the person that wound up being here. You have many people higher than you in rank that are making the real decisions, and you have to make the best you can with your role, and I respect that totally. And so you're merely the messenger, I think. But let me suggest to you that the plan that has been brought forward about new flexibilities is not going to work. The federal government spent $3 trillion, 1/7 of our annual economy, to inject into various places for the very purposes like this. Minnesota got almost $2 billion. The bill in front of you is $30 million to inject into this system. There is no way on earth, unless you inject some cash, that any of the effects you hope to undo are going to happen. I'm just telling you that. And so that's a statement. Senate File 133 and now this new draft is designed for that. The governor could do this by executive order, every bit of it, with the improvements that we have in the draft, and he could do it today, and these places would be open. So that's beyond your pay grade. But so can you comment for me on the waivers that you couldn't do without authority? That is there a reason that the department did not bring forward a draft legislation to bring to me and to Senator Liebling that we could have passed in a minute? Well, it would have taken 20 minutes to do the roll call in the House and about 10 minutes for us. We could have done this in like literally half a day to give you authority. Can you tell me why you didn't request that authority? You being the department, not you being you.
Senator Abler, members of the
Oh,
maybe
go
I
ahead,
can
Mr. Bird.
take that one, Senator Abler. Well, Senator Abler, as you know, we have a process that we go through in proposing legislation. We've been available and having this conversation and available for technical assistance throughout this entire time and continue to do so. And we're always happy to work in collaboration with the legislature to accomplish our shared goals. And I think we've made ourselves available to do so.
Mr. Burdick, you and your staffers have been incredible on providing technical assistance. So my question is, I guess my question might be for the governor and the commissioner. The governor is actually the head of the food chain and the commissioner works for him. So do you have any idea why the governor and the commissioner did not say this is on our list? They had a big shopping list of things they wanted in a supplemental budget. They could have supplemented the supplemental budget with this particular request, say $15 million for $30 or $40 million worth of waiver. Is it fair to ask you that question, Ms. Mertz? That's the question I was trying to ask you when Mr. Burdick answered the question a little bit. So I mean, well, do you plan to come forward? Are you going to ask us to help us get this waiver? Go ahead.
Senator Abler, as I said, we are more than happy to work in collaboration with the legislature on these items.
I got it. Ms. Mertz, you were going to say something?
Mr. Chair, member of the committee, I was just going to say exactly what Mr. Burdick said, which is we are, yes, available and certainly willing to engage in technical assistance to get this done as a priority of the legislature.
Thank you. And Ms. Mertz, and I'm going to take the other questions, but it seems to me this would be a priority of the governor. 100,000 people. Actually, do you know offhand how many people are covered under that list? I asked that question earlier. Do you or Ms. Grom or somebody know how many individuals are covered in that list of services that are potentially affected?
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, I don't have that number with me right now, understanding that it includes NEMT and CTSS as well as day services and the service of adult day. We can certainly get those figures and provide them to the committee at a later time.
But it could well be 50,000 people or even more than that. It could be 100,000, 200,000 people affected, especially if NEMT, but the CTSS and the EIDBI, that's about 1,000, I think, on EIDBI. And I don't know how many people do CTSS. Anyway, so this is for your leadership, Ms. Mertz. I'm disappointed that they yet don't have a request to us on the governor's stationery saying, we think it's important that all these places are closing and the system's about to collapse. And the PS is like, so legislature, when you decide what you want us to do, let us know. That's a statement. So, and Ms. Mertz, you're the greatest of all sports to sit here and be the face of the department when you're not the person making the decision. So I think I have a problem with the leadership. Senator Utke.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And a lot of the comments you just, the questions you just covered, but I've got a few things that I've heard today. And again, thank you to those from the department that are on today. We're not here to shoot the messenger, but please pass this on. The governor and the commissioner are at the top, and they need to hear it. But you know, as I've been listening, I'm hearing that you know, one of the comments is we're hearing the testimony today about the dire straits. Well, I think we've been talking about this for over 2 months, and I'm hoping that message gets to the top. I've also heard we wish to be partners. We care. Stable system in Minnesota. How vital these service providers are. Well, we're not carrying through that message. We just heard from our providers the dire straits that they're in, and please, you know, pass that on. You know, the current as is a total failure to our providers, and we just have to do more. And I hope we can do that. And you know, the questions already have been asked. What is the department's plan? And then I guess I just follow that up with how can we stand by and watch these providers fail? And I just hope that this message gets passed along all the way up to the governor, because you know, we don't have months to do this. We don't really have days to do it. It has to happen now. So that would be my message for right now is we just have to do something right away.
Thank you, Senator Utke. Senator Kiffmeyer. We're about to come in for a landing here pretty soon. So, I mean, I'm not rushing you, Senator Kiffmeyer, but if anybody else has a question, get in the queue. Otherwise, we're going to, after Senator Kiffmeyer finishes, I'll wrap up. So I don't want to cut anybody off. So, Senator Kiffmeyer.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, it's just very, very disappointing to hear basically the representatives of the governor through DHS to put them in such an uncomfortable spot. So my sympathy to them. The big thing is that there is no other state that needed legislative approval. Why only Minnesota? So I would like in writing a response from Mr. Burdick and from the governor, from the DHS, whoever it is, to get a response in very short order that the statute or the rule or whatever it is that they claim their basis, that this is what it has to be, that they're saying we believe on what? And by the way, we in the legislature already had information from other states, from CMS, that said, it's okay, it's good to go, and you just didn't ask. But you are the ones in the department, the governor's appointees, that make this claim. So the burden and responsibility is on you, the governor's offices of DHS, to show us, the legislature. We're trying to fix it as best we can and respond to you in all best faith, but it's very difficult. And I appreciate what Ms. Mertz said about not intention, not plan. It's an evolving system, but pretty much it was a status quo answer. We're just going to keep doing what we are doing. And so I think sometimes I think of the a saying that I've heard before, and I think this may be very true here, that actions speak louder than words, or inaction speaks louder than the words stated here. And that's very disappointing, because you are the agency, the entity that is supposed to, has a duty and responsibility to act on behalf of all Minnesotans, but especially people with disabilities where they need extra support and extra help. So your actions are speaking, or inaction is speaking very loud here right now. But I would like to ask you for the statute, the rule, whatever it is that you are claiming you have this belief. It's got to be founded on something, because no other states have made that claim. So I'd like to know what is so unique in Minnesota that you're claiming. And you have the duty and the responsibility to respond to the legislature immediately with that information. You must have it, because you've talked about it. So it must be there by close of business today. You should be able to just send that over to Chair Abler. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Kiffmeyer, so Ms. Mertz and Mr. Burdick, do you have that request clear?
Mr. Chair, we're happy to follow up with the committee.
All right. Any other questions from members? Senator Kiffmeyer, did you complete your question?
Yes, I did, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
And Senator Hoffman, looks like you're squared away, and Senator Utke, and I don't know whoever else is left. So I just have a few closing thoughts, and then we're going to wrap it up. And I want to thank all the testifiers today who represent hundreds and hundreds of places. And, you know, this is the beginning of the hard times. The next budget is going to be just really hard. And we really risk, even with that, never mind this part, putting a lot of our people with disabilities at risk. And just on the fiscal side, the state risks a good number of lawsuits where we're not providing the services that we are to provide under Olmstead and other cases that have told us that we need to do the right thing. And everybody here, including all the staff from DHS, I believe is interested in doing the right thing. But what I don't hear is we have a plan to do some emergency funding. And so I guess if you're waiting for the legislature to ask you for stuff to do, thanks for the assistance on getting Senate File 133 in much better shape than it even was before. It would have been fine with that technical glitch we had to fix. But it's even better as we limit and focus to the greatest need. And so I guess if you're waiting for legislative requests, requesting Governor Walz, would you, since we're driving this, would you please rescue the disability service sector in Minnesota? Would you please put this into executive order, much as you did Senate File 4200? Thanks for taking the lead on that. You're keeping the system intact when your peacetime orders go away. But here's the bill. Just write executive order, something on top of it, and we will all say thank you to you for doing that. And just to DHS, as you advise the governor and realize this is not his forte, could you please look at this all again and kind of change your view of emergency funding, and then advise the governor and give these folks some hope. And I'm just going to tell you really directly that the dials and the partial opens and the 3 hours and the limited number of people, I respect the COVID issues totally, but they're insufficient to fill the holes. And not every testifier today said they would go out of business, but someone just like them is going to go out of business in July and August. Some are gone already. And in areas that are underserved in greater Minnesota and other places where there's limited providers, this is a big deal. So we as a committee have collaborated really well, regardless of party, regardless of geography, regardless of anything, regardless of race or anything. This is about people who have a need, and it covers the gamut of equity issues and geography and income and all that. And so we are collaborators, and we're here pretty much begging the department and the governor to please, would you hear this message and please react. And so please don't send a ship from New York. If there's a submarine in the area, kind of maybe bring that over. They have these boats that land in the water. I mean, these airplanes that land in the water. We need something urgent to rescue some folks. You're still not going to rescue them all, but you're going to rescue a lot of them. So I better stop there. But I want to thank everybody for their attention to this, and I pray the House kind of gets the idea. We haven't been too rough on them, except that they just didn't do it, and I just don't know why. I'm asking for their cooperation, and at the end, we still have to be cooperative, and we only are one leg of the stool. So anyway, I think we've covered this pretty well. Please keep reaching out to us and to the other body and to the governor. And this is just so urgent. I mean, clients literally will not thrive. Young people will not recover from something that could have been recovered. Some people will die from this. And that's just, it's not okay. So with that, God bless us all, and may we find our way through this very perilous time. And thank you to all the people who have dedicated their lives to caring for the people, and the families who wake up every day wondering, how am I going to serve myself or my kid? And anyway, thanks a lot. God bless you all.